So in a previous video, I mentioned that using multiple elicitation techniques is one of the good practices of elicitation. And again, let me highlight the fact that instead of going ad hoc to gather information, using some techniques that we know that would facilitate proper elicitation of information is definitely a better idea. Now, we listed these elicitation techniques, and we also mentioned that for a few of these, like the benchmarking, market analysis, data mining, will be covered in another module. Now, in this particular module, I'll be discussing more about the document analysis or background study and analysis of the existing systems. Before I go into the, let's say, details of these techniques, so as a general rule, what I do, I just discuss the technique, the objective of this technique, and how you can apply that technique, and then I present usually the strong points or weak points or limitations of these techniques. And that last part is particularly important and usually overlooked. So it is extremely important for a business analyst to know not just how that particular technique works, but under what conditions it would work properly or more effectively. That is, or what strong points, or what are the tips and tricks. They are equally, if not more important than knowing how that particular method works. So focus on strengths, limitations, or let's say pros and cons of also, let's say, focus on that one. Again, let me also go with a kind of an overview of the elicitation techniques versus different types of software systems. You can imagine that there are so many different types of software systems, from mass market applications to existing software or let's say internal corporate information systems, to replacing existing projects, to enhancing ones, or completely developing new software system, embedded systems like machines or jet engines, jet fighters, for instance. They are also embedded systems, and so on and so forth. There are different types of settings that you can imagine for a particular software development project, and we'll be focusing on these techniques like the document analysis of existing system, and so on. And you would see, at least I wanted to give you a kind of overview of which one of these techniques are a little bit more applicable than the other ones. At least one striking thing that you can perhaps notice, that interviews are just valid elicitation techniques for almost all type of settings. That's number one thing that you can perhaps notice. And the other ones, like workshops, are also quite important. Focus groups, there are types of workshops as well. We're going to discuss about that. And questionnaires are, let's say, used, but yeah, not as often as the other ones. Okay, now going back to the techniques, starting with the document analysis or background study. So this is basically inspecting, reading pre-existing material, documents, usually obviously about the existing systems. Okay, so the contracts, requests for proposals, RFPs, system requirements, available standards and regulations at that time. No, not at that time only, but also now that the company or this new system will be operating in an environment which will be or is currently regulated by laws and regulations. So you also have to have a look at these as well. Documents from legacy systems, user manuals, procedures, internal or business process descriptions available in quality management systems, mission, vision, organigrams, business plans, business model documents, and so on. Let me also kind of make a note here that you would see a little bit more material here in the slides than I will present to you. I mean, I just wanted these slides to be as complete as possible, but I don't think there will be time and need at the same time to discuss everything about what is in the slide. So I might just skip some of the points that I think would be less important in order to, let's say, keep your attention for a longer period of time. Honestly, strengths, as I mentioned, these are important topics. Okay, what are the strengths? Okay, existing sources, although possibly outdated, can be used as a point of at least departure, or a starting point, to find out what is current and what has changed. Results can be used to validate against the results of other requirements elicitation techniques. So basically, it's nice, you should do that, but don't forget that you have to listen to the stakeholders, your users, definitely in all cases anyway. So you can't just rely on this particular technique alone. That's not just a strength, but also a limitation, which comes later on, simply because the existing documentations are usually, let's say, out of date. Okay, I mean, particularly about the existing systems, not regulations and laws and regulations, or not just vision and mission documents. Even sometimes these documents are outdated. Authors may not be available for questions, so you might just be kind of left helpless. In that sense, if you have any questions about what happened at that time, I mean, it's useful to understand what is exactly happening at this moment, but what is required for future is another question which you need to ask to stakeholders. And it might be very time consuming at the same time, so you might end up with a lot of documents that you might need to check with that. Document analysis, background study. Existing analysis of existing systems, a little bit similar to document analysis. They just study the existing systems, sometimes also called legacy systems, their user interfaces, problem reports. They helpful to look at. So how does the existing system look? As always, obviously, will give you some kind of an idea, or what is the interface between that existing system and the other system. It's also quite a nice idea to look at that, because again, your system will also be interacting with other systems. It's a good idea to check how the existing system is interacting, so that you can keep perhaps the same message exchange between the other systems. Competing market products, you can do market analysis, and again, this is another topic to discuss later on in another module. What you need to consider here is that you need to you need to be careful about the, let's say, the existing system and its documentation. It's not very, let's say, it is often, I must admit, that the documentation for a particular system is a little bit outdated, and the actual system is different than what has already been documented. So be careful with that one as well. Also be careful not to mimic the same problems of existing structures. So that's the reason why these two techniques that I've been discussing right now are only complementary rather than replacing the actual communication that you have to do with the stakeholders or users. So document analysis, analysis of existing systems, two techniques for elicitation. Not much communication heavy, but definitely must do in all cases. So you need to look at, for instance, organizations, organigrams, business plans or models, and if there is any kind of a document, mission, vision, business processes, you have to do that in any case. Okay, good. That's it for this particular module. We'll be discussing more about the communication heavy ones in the next ones. Okay, good. See you later.